Ready?
Yes.
Ready, motion. Did he say yes?
Yep.
I guess that is still.
It is.
We should give us chocolate.
Yeah.
And coffee. Chocolate coffee. Okay, I call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Elgin City Council on the 16th day of November 2021 at 6:30 PM. Next on the agenda is roll call. We'll start roll call with Mayor Pro Tem Brazier.
Frazier here.
Ramirez here.
Vega here.
Gibson here.
Arriaga here.
Maldonado here.
Callahan.
Ibis here.
Let the record show we have a quorum. Councilmember Dennis did call staff and myself and let us know he would not be here. Do I hear a motion to excuse Councilmember Dennis's absence?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Councilmember Maldonado, seconded by Councilmember Callahan. We'll start the vote with Mr. Maldonado.
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Ibis, yes.
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Arriaga, yes.
Okay, motion passes. Councilmember Dennis's absence is excused. Invocation, the invocation tonight will be done by Councilmember Ibis. Councilmember Ibis, it's up to you, sir.
Let us pray. Dear God, please bless the citizens of Elgin and give us the strength to make the right decisions for them. Amen.
Amen. All right, we're moving on. We're moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll honor the Texas flag now. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you all and welcome to the Elgin City Council meeting. If we're following our agenda, next step is going to be a public hearing. We have two public hearings for tonight. Public hearing number 1 concerns the Stone Creek Ranch and will be read in full when we read new business item number 3. Do we have anyone here to speak on public hearing item number 1? Okay, moving on. Public hearing item number 2 concerns new business item number 4, at which time it will be fully read. Do we have anyone here to speak on public hearing item number 2? Okay, what a nice, quiet crowd we have here this evening. All right, let's go to public comments. We have 3 public comments. Of course, we know that public comments are kept at 3 minutes. Speakers must address their comments to the mayor rather than to an individual council member or member of staff. All speakers must limit their comments to the specific subject matter noted on the public comment form and refrain from personal attacks or derogatory comments directed at any council member, member of staff, or any other individual or group. Our first public comment is from Ms. Gina Carter. And just so our speakers know, time is being timed by our city secretary, and the alarm will go off at 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Good evening. Tonight, I'm here representing the Elgin Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors and our 300-plus chamber members. First, I want to thank each of you for your willingness to serve on the City Council. In this day and time, it takes lots of courage to be a community leader. But your service is very much appreciated, not only by many, but by the leadership of the Chamber of Commerce. You have to make many difficult decisions, and some of those decisions you may even question yourself, your constituents, your friends, if you're making the right decision, and we know that you have some of those decisions tonight to make. 2 weeks ago, our city manager, Tom Mattis, came and gave a well-prepared and informative presentation to the Chamber of Commerce at our monthly membership lunch. We received many positive comments and positive feedback from that presentation. We shared the link to our social media platforms as well as we emailed the link to all of our 300+ chamber members. Our chamber members are made up of a diverse group of community leaders. We have small businesses, large businesses, government entities, churches, nonprofits, and individuals. And we continue to hear positive feedback and approval of the direction that the city is going. So much positive feedback that at our board meeting on Wednesday of last week, a motion was made and unanimously passed to show support to the Elgin City Council to approve the CO bonds that are presented tonight. We believe strongly that now is extremely important and is necessary to approve these bonds and move forward with city projects. We acknowledge that issuing additional city debt is a concern. However, at this time, we believe that by not using this tool that's available to you now to finance this infrastructure and city projects, that it would be more detrimental to the city of Elgin and even cause more of a financial hardship in the future. We also urge unanimous support for the approval of these bonds. A united and unified council reflects and communicates to all that our city leaders are united and that they are willing and committed to moving forward and providing quality of life improvements to all of our residents, not just the ones now, but even to our future generations, our children and grandchildren. It also sends a very strong message to those willing to invest in our community and the economic development that we're even expecting even more. These are historic times, they're exciting times, but I'm just extremely grateful for the partnerships and the relationships and the opportunity given to the chamber to address you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Okay, Mr. Grant Hennig.
Good evening. Again, I'm here to address you on the same topic we've been addressing quite a few times over the past year. But first of all, thank you, like Ms. Carter, for your service as elected officials. I know it's a difficult job, and again, it pays very well, I know, and that's why y'all do it for the pay. But thank you again for your service. And I see some of us did get the purple memo, so 3 of us got a purple. I do want to talk about the COs. That's why I'm here tonight. Again, I want to go back to the voter. I mean, just like Dr. Duran did, Dr. Duran trusted the voter, and the voters came through for her, passed almost $200 million worth of bonds. We're only talking about 12 million here, a little less than 12 tonight. But I do think the voters need a say in what y'all are fixing to pass and the debt that they're going into. I feel bad that they don't have an input, and I actually think the bonds should be bigger, so we can do bigger projects and actually finish County Line Road instead of a little piecemeal thing that we seem to be doing. I'm concerned that we're just building a $6 million parking lot in front of the high school. You're gonna have a bottleneck on both sides of it, down to 2 lanes at the light, 2 lanes on the other end. You're building a big parking lot right in front of the high school. It's pretty much all you're voting to do. I would look for ARP money that's coming out with transportation for the state of Texas. We're getting over $3 billion for transportation projects. I would highly suggest applying for some of those to help fund this project instead of our taxpayers. I'm concerned that the high school probably needs a second exit. Have you ever thought about doing a right-of-way on the backside of the water tower and tying it into 1100 off the football field back at the back? So we can have 2 ways to get out like most of our schools do, instead of putting the parking lot in front of the high school. And again, this parking lot effect only happens twice a day. It happens in the morning and happens in the afternoon. And it only happens 5 days a week. And it only happens a few months out of the year. This isn't an everyday thing, 7 days a week. If you drive to Austin like I do every day to go to work, it's the same parking lot from County Line Road almost to the city of Austin on 290. So I would highly, highly, highly encourage you not to pass this tonight. I would ask you to, I don't disapprove of the projects. I think they're very important projects, but I just think the voter needs a say in how we're spending their money. I'm concerned that we're running out the old Elgin. I see old Elgin people leaving, citizens leaving because of our tax rates and our property value increases. Y'all need to let the citizens know you're raising their taxes tonight. You're raising their property taxes tonight. We were concerned before about an $8 increase in our utility usage fee. Well, this is going to be a lot bigger than an $8 increase in the utility usage fee. You need to let your voters know y'all are raising their taxes tonight, property taxes. So I just want y'all to consider that. And also 2 cents on the new voting place, a vote for the rec center. That's all I got tonight. Thank you very much, and thank you again for all of y'all's service.
Thank you, Mr. Hennick. Okay, next, Mr. Rivers, Ed Rivers.
Mayor, my name is Ed Rivers. I'm also speaking on the certificates of obligations. I'm probably the oldest person in Elgin you're going to find here tonight. I've lived here 68 years. I understand taxes can go up. I'm in the land title business, so I understand how fast the city is growing. And I know that if we don't prepare for it, then we're going to be in big trouble. You can look at some town. You look at Trivia Springs right now. They're in a moratorium for building right now. So, you know, hopefully we're far enough ahead of it that we're going to be ready for it. I believe that the city council is elected by the citizens. I think we should put our trust in the city council, the mayor, and the city manager. They take their jobs very seriously. And that's what the ballot box is for. If you aren't happy with the way your city government's been run, then you can cast your vote accordingly. I'm the chairman-elect of the Chamber of Commerce. I do believe that Gina stole my notes for tonight because that's exactly what I was going to say. I too approve of the seal issuance from a position of the Chamber of Commerce, as well as being on the Main Street Board, the Historic Review Board, as a property owner, as a business owner. So I would encourage you to pass the CO bonds. I think they are an important tool to move forward with preparing the city for the growth we're experiencing now and we'll experience in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivers. Ms. Stubbs, is that it for public comments? Okay. Public comments are very much appreciated by the council. We want to know what our constituents are thinking, so thank you very much for showing up. Moving on in the agenda, we have the city manager report, and Mr. Mattis, if you'll start with that.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a couple items we just make a brief report on. As council is aware, coming up in January will be time to appoint and reappoint various individuals to our different boards and commissions. A couple of years back, the council made the conscious decision to align all these appointments to follow the same term, so that every year in the first meeting in January, we consider appointments or reappointments to all these boards and commissions. So the city secretary has some obligations under the city ordinance, so we thought we'd just brief you real quickly on what that plan is and what she's going to be doing, but all targeting towards y'all being ready to make these appointments on January 4th. So.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'm here just to talk a little bit about the boards and committees process. I know in the past we had issues with not, getting people to serve on these committees, but we've got, I just looked today, it's about 20 plus applications for our boards and committees. So it's really awesome that, citizens of Elgin are wishing to serve on these boards and committees. And so just kind of wanted to give you all a heads up now to be on the lookout for these applications. I'm asking for those that are interested in applying to do so by November 26th so that I can then compile it. The reason why we have to get it by the end of the year is because I have to give you all enough notification per the ordinance to give you all enough time to go through each application. We've got 24 spots that are up for renewal across the board. So that means that there are some that are on the boards and committees right now that wish to be reappointed to the committee, but we've also, we've got several people who are new and want to serve on these committees. And so we just wanted to give you all enough heads up and so that y'all will know that these are coming and I'll get these applications to y'all on November the 30th. And then, of course, if there's more applications between now and then I will compile those and then submit those before y'all make the appointments at the first meeting in January. So just kind of wanted to give you all a heads up, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So I've seen the advertising on social media. That's going to continue, I guess?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but just to clarify that last point, the staff doesn't feel comfortable having a really hard cutoff date for the applications. We wouldn't want to do that. But, so it's important to note that the package that the city secretary will be putting together, her deadline is November 26th. So if people want to be considered in that initial package that goes out to council, they need to hit that deadline. At the same time, if we get other applications between then and the 4th, then we'll forward those on to you, but it really works best for everybody, I think, including council, if you can look at those all at the same time. So anybody interested, get hold of Jennifer between now and the application's online, can do it all online or in person.
So I asked council members and asked citizens of Elgin, you know people that would be good on some of these boards. If they haven't taken the time to do the research to see if they want to serve, maybe you can get on them a little bit and say, hey, you would be great on the Parks Board, or you would be great on the Public Safety Advisory Committee, et cetera, et cetera. And we all know people that we know would be good on these boards. So now's the time to see if they're interested in serving. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks. Next item on the agenda is the routine presentation of the fourth quarter investment report. As council knows, this is the item we're compelled to provide to council and have it show up on the record that we provided it. So as before, we don't really have any particular presentation unless anybody has any questions. And obviously, if you have any follow-up questions, even after the meeting, we're always available to answer those. So, did you have anything else, Misty, in particular?
No, that was it. Just in case.
Misty, it's pretty straightforward. Was there anything unusual during this past quarter that?
No, sir. We closed out the CD according to EDC's request, so put that into their bank account. Other than that, we did create a new Logic account for the CLF funds, the proceeds. But, well, business as usual.
Council, do we have any questions or comments for Misty while she's up there?
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I guess that's all my report, Mayor, unless anybody had any other questions or anything that's not on the agenda.
Okay. Let's move on then to the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes non-controversial and routine items that are considered to be self-explanatory by the city council will be enacted with one motion, 1 second, and 1 vote. Any member of the city council may pull any item from the consent agenda in order that the city council discuss and act upon it individually as part of the regular agenda. Now, as you council members saw, there's a lot of items listed under the consent agenda. The city manager and myself went over extensively every single item, and I'm comfortable with them. But if there's any item that you want more information on, or you want more discussion on, please feel free to say so, and we can pull the item off the consent agenda. Okay, if that's the case, I'll entertain a motion to pass consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay. Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher, seconded by Councilmember Callahan. We'll start the vote with Mayor Pro Tem Brasher.
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes?
Gibson, yes.
Arriaga, yes.
Malnado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Ibis, yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Okay, in our agenda, we're moving on to new business. Item number 1 under new business, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Elgin, Texas Combination Tax and Revenue Certificates of Obligation, Series 2021A, levying an ad valorem tax and pledging certain surplus revenues in support of the certificates. approving an official statement, a paying agent registrar agreement, and other agreements relating to the sale and issuance of the certificates, and ordaining other matters relating to the issuance of the certificates.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the final action on our 2021A COs that we've been talking about in one way or the other for the whole last year. This is a quick list of the projects with the original par amount of $12.5 million. These are the various projects that we are funding through the 2021A issuance. Council has gone over literally every one of these projects in detail individually and has set the budget amount shown to the right. And as you can see from this listing, many of these projects we've already started planning and development on. All of them we anticipate, moving forward next year. And in some cases, we've already made some commitments. So we're really excited about this project and the funding that it'll provide for virtually every service area in the city. As council knows, earlier this year, we also issued the initial 2021 COs for utility services. These are the projects we're funding here, and they continue to move forward with great progress. Actually, of the 10 projects here, I think 4 of them are already completed. A couple more are well underway. The big projects with weatherizing the treatment plant and the Pistol Hill water tank, we just got the contract from the General Land Office for a $5 million grant that will help us do that project as well. The wastewater treatment plant expansion is well underway. So we're very excited about these projects and what they mean for the city. And the 2 issuances together will address operation needs in every faction of the city. Will have direct benefit to every citizen in the city. And we met with the chamber. We kind of compiled this list to talk about what a great, exciting year 2022 is going to be for the city of Elgin. Starting with the fact that it's our sesquicentennial, 150th anniversary, and we're easily, we think, going to see probably 1,000 homes get built in Elgin during the calendar year, maybe more. As we've talked about repeatedly, not only is the Tesla plant going to affect our growth, but if the Samsung deal follows through in Taylor, those are both going to have major impacts on our growth in Elgin. So in a lot of ways, 800 to 1,000 homes could be conservative. This funding that we're going to get from this program is actually going to enable the city to do a number of first evers in Elgin. The first time we've ever built a police station, the city has. We're going to build the best residential arterial roadway Elgin's ever had. 3 major improvement in all 3 major parks. The east side of town, the west side of town, and the central park all at one time. The Poth building, which has sat in disrepair for many, many years and was almost lost, will be completely restored. And then we'll expand to a historic level our capabilities for emergency power for our utility systems. The sewer plant will be substantially completed in 2022. Kind of the cherry on the top, I think, for the city is the success of the EISD bond issue. They're not as quick as we are on the driving nails, but it'll take a while, but we're definitely going to get started on the schools next year. We're going to see a lot of building activity, and we're really excited about that, working hand in hand with what the city will be doing. And I think it's important also the takeaway the city council can take from the fact that Proposition A passed by the largest margin, and those were the true must-do business issues that the school district needed to have, directly affected by growth, impacted by growth. The fact that the way the votes came out showed that people really thought that through. They didn't just go in and pull the lever one way or the other for all 3 issues. So it shows me the fact that Prop A passed by such a large margin, I think we should take as a definite message that the majority of people in Elgin are ready to move forward and embrace growth. and help the city advance. We're also going to see $15 million worth of grant projects get started, as we've talked about before. We've got the commitment from the state for this grant money, but we have to follow their process, and we're just now getting the contractual agreements together for those. But those projects, the Pistol Hill project and County Line Phase 1 and Kennedy Street should all get underway during 2022. At the same time, next year, we're going to see 3 new manufacturing plants build and open. That'll create at least 100 new full-time jobs. Those are all because of development agreements the EDC and the City Council has approved with those companies, so we're excited about that. Southside Barbecue will be constructing their world headquarters out in the business park. They're calling it office space, but I'm calling it their world headquarters. So we're going to have the world headquarters at Southside Barbecue here. And then Circle Brew will be opening in the first quarter, a historic one-of-a-kind project in Texas in the first quarter of 22. And then, of course, the crowning achievement of the mayor's tenure to get Whataburger here in town is a big deal. Burger King will move forward, and the Polo Local Grocery we hope will open in the first half of 2022. So really, really big year for us next year. And the bond issue in support of the school district and these CO issues are absolutely crucial to us moving the city forward. I just want to say quickly, I think, some of the conversation we've had over the last year has been frustrating at times because of a lack of proper communication among some of the people. And so it's frustrating to me that tonight we saw the only negative comments we got from anybody, they immediately left. So we couldn't respond to some of the things that were said, but I'm going to do that anyway. Number one, I just want to say that the voters in this town vote every year. Every year in Elgin, there's a 13-month period that every seat on the city council, including the mayor, is up for election. Every year. Think about that if we had that in our legislature or Congress, that we could change the whole group inside of 13 months. I don't know of a better system that allows citizens to voice their concerns. We already have that now. Council knows what the decision is to make, has always made right decisions on behalf of the citizens, and that's why that wasn't necessary to take this to a vote. The notion that residents are leaving Elgin, I don't even know where that comes from. There's no statistical evidence of that, and we're being overrun by resident people moving here. And I wanted to say too, as the council knows, and we've talked about previously, but I feel compelled to say this, Phase 2 of County Line Road, we've already received a grant that we believe is in excess of $5 million for that road. We think Phase 2 from County Line Road to Nidec Elementary, we already have grant funds in place. So we'll be able to move on to that next. As we also talked about before, even if we had all the money in the world, I'd strongly recommend trying to rebuild the entirety of County Line Road now. We're already going to have construction fatigue, but that's why we're not moving forward. So those are issues that have been clearly discussed and vetted by the city council and go into this decision-making that we're having tonight. So, and disruption is going to be part of that. We talked about that with the school board. You can't make progress without construction, and construction is going to create disruption. We're taking a farm-to-market country road and turn it into a 4-lane arterial roadway with sidewalks. That's going to cause a disruption that we're going to need everybody at the school district, everybody that lives out there to work with us to get this issue to where we can complete that road, but in the long run, it'll really benefit us. And then finally, I'd want to say, again, as we'll talk about later this evening, we literally have a development tonight that'll create a secondary access road from the high school campus onto 1100, just like was suggested here tonight. So it's unfortunate that people have those concerns, don't want to hear the truth or the answers about it, but I just want to get that in there to say all those issues have already been addressed. So with that, Mayor, I was just going to have Chris Allen stand up and tell us the good news of what happened at the market today. And
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, Chris Allen, RBC Capital Markets Financial Advisor to the city. We did, as Mr. Mattis mentioned, we did go into the market today with the COs. We ended up with a par amount of, $10,705,000 certificates of obligation, which will fund $12,205,000 in projects. Just to kind of give you some background as to where we are in the market, we have seen a little sell-off in the Treasury market, and what that means to you is typically municipal bonds follow Treasury yields. So with the Fed speaking earlier in the month, he signaled that interest rates were likely to go up with the tapering of the quantitative easing and CPI coming in hotter than expected. So we have seen, Treasury rates increase, although municipals have outperformed Treasuries. So municipal interest rates have remained very, very low. Just to kind of give you an idea of the team, you have Carol Palumbo, who is with McCall Parkhurst. She's your bond attorney. Gabby Brasino is my partner with RBC. Stiefel Nicholas was the underwriter for the transaction. So we went out today and we received a very attractive bid of 2.81% for 25 years. Very attractive rate. And so, one other thing I'd like to say is that we did, as a matter of course, when we go into issuing certificates, we meet with the rating agencies. Both Tom and Misty did a very good job of presenting to the rating agencies. They did affirm the Baa1 with a positive outlook. And so they also indicated, by looking at the unaudited numbers, that there should be some room for upward pressure of that rating because you have continued positive revenue numbers. The general fund is being replenished to levels that will signal an upward pressure on that rating agency or credit rating. So we look to meet with them in the next quarter once we have unaudited numbers, and they'll take another look at that time. So with that, I would certainly recommend approval of this 2.81% rate, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
6 months ago, what's the difference when we got our preliminary COs, the water, wastewater COs 6 months ago, and now in the market? As far as the interest, is it still, it hasn't gone up that much?
Well, we've seen interest rates move about 45 basis points, so about a half a percentage point. So if you compare what we sold at when we sold the water and wastewater COs, I think the TIC was 2.3%. And so you compare that to 2.8%. So we've seen interest.
So that's 0.5% then, like you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. And our rating of Baa1 stayed the same then? It didn't go down because of the two asks in the same fiscal year?
No.
That's wonderful. Yep.
No, this is all great news.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Council, anybody have any questions? Would you repeat the final figure again? It was 10,000.
$10,705,000.
Well, to be clear, that's what we're on the hook for.
That's the amount of par that you borrowed.
Got a
that you will
1.7.
Pay back to investors.
We got a 1.7 premium.
Premium.
So we're receiving 12.5.
You'll receive 12.5, but you pay back 10.
And that's only because of RBC's work. We would have never
Well, I
got
think
that
it's
with.
because of the city manager.
Wait,
His
there,
hard work.
thank you.
No,
Thanks.
that's
Played
a
right into
reflection
that,
on
Chris.
the
Thanks.
City council.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Mayor, that's really, unless anybody has any questions, that's really what we have tonight. You know in your packets that as the way this works, left these numbers blank, but these numbers that are reflected on the screen are basically what we're going to fill in those blanks for, but it's good news. Interest went up a little bit from where we were this summer, but 2.8 is still a really good interest rate, and with the almost $1.7 million premium, the city's getting a good deal, I think, on this issuance.
So, council, what I would ask of you before we do anything on this new business item number 1 is keep in mind that, and it was mentioned earlier, no city wants to look at, well, we're just going to go tens of millions of dollars in debt. No city wants to look at that. But what we've done is we've identified 14 items under the water, wastewater. We've identified 9 items under the city that we needed, and there's no waste there. I mean, these are items that either have to happen or should happen because of the growth that we're experiencing here. And so, as we discuss and as then a minute vote on this, just keep in mind that our citizens have elected us to make decisions like this. This is the reason that you're sitting here up here in the chamber, to make hard decisions like this. So, with that, I'll open it up for discussion. For anybody have any questions or comments, or want to bring up any points?
Mayor, can I jump in?
Yes,
Just one
absolutely.
thing real quick that you reminded me of. We want to make sure it's on the record that some of the discussion we had before is it necessary to specifically tie out these projects to amounts in the ordinance? And my point is because the numbers I showed you tonight, the council has specifically approved those projects for that amount. So that's certainly the way the staff looks at it. We are tied to those amounts, whether it says it and those projects, whether it necessarily says that in the ordinance. The council has spent a year saying those are the projects we're going to do. That message is clear to the staff. Those are the projects we're going to do with this money. Now, what I will say is this. Like every project we do, every one of those, it'll be our goal to do the project and bring it in under budget. And so by the time we get to the end of this thing, after we've done all the projects, it'll be our goal to have some money left over, that at that point, the council can decide what to invest that in. But the projects we've shown here, we're fully committed to as if they were specifically listed in the ordinance, and we're going to do every one of them.
And Mr. Mattis, just so you know, I'm very excited about Whataburger, but I hope that's not my crowning achievement. But I am very excited about Whataburger. Okay. Do we have any questions or comments, council? Under new business item number 1.
I do.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering why the TRIZ isn't issuing their own COs.
Why they're not?
Right. Why?
It's just easier, more, number one, TERS already has issued their debt. They're paying that off. They can't afford anymore. The TERS isn't generating that kind of money yet. We've kind of maxed out what annual revenue they have left. We mean in the EDC?
Well, the TRIZ is its own, they issue their own debts. The EDC gets sales tax.
That's right.
Yeah. But, my question is, why doesn't the TRIZ issue COs or the EDC use some of that sales tax revenue to fund some of these?
Well, the TERS isn't generating sufficient money to fund the $3.5 million that we're funding here. The EDC is committing their sales tax to help pay this debt.
Let's make sure everyone understands we're just talking about the EDC portion of the COs. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I can tell you as a member of the EDC board that that is our intention. That part of the CO bond package, the EDC part will be paid by the sales tax from the EDC.
And who's currently on the TRIZ board?
It's the half, probably on half county officials and half city officials. It's county judge, one commissioner, the county treasurer, and then I think it's the mayor and Jessica and Sue represent the city.
And when was the last meeting? When's the next meeting?
No, Councilman, we had
Okay.
a little advance warning that you wanted to talk about this. We met this week, right? You didn't ask me any of these questions.
Okay, so let's continue on with this. Whatever answers that you feel that we don't have yet, we can get, certainly, Councilmember Ibis. But as City Manager said, if we had known in advance, we could have been sure to have everything that you wanted to know in advance. So tonight, I mean. Yes?
Mayor, I just want to make a comment. I'm not sure what the point is, what the point Thomas is trying to make at this point. To me, it's clear we've done our due diligence. Staff has done their homework. I think we're still moving in a positive direction, so we should do that, move ahead.
The point that I'm trying to make is there's other funding mechanisms for the EDC projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ibis. Thank you, Councilmember Vega. Anybody else have any comments or discussion on new business item number 1? Okay, with that being said, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the certificates of obligation as presented.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Motion made by Councilmember Vega, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Vega.
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Arriaga, yes.
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Ibis, no.
Frazier, yes?
Ramirez, yes. Motion passes, 1 nay.
Thank you, council. The staff really appreciates your support on this, and as I said, we look forward to a big year this year, and we need resources, and the staff knows the challenge is back on us now to deliver on this plan. We're excited to do so.
Okay, new business item number 2, moving on. A resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with the City of Elgin Economic Development Corporation relating to the City of Elgin, Texas Combination Tax and Revenue Certificates of Obligation Series 2021A and making certain findings related hereto.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is just a documentation of our agreement with the EDC board to commit future revenues sufficient to make payments on their portion of this debt issuance. The contract that's in your packets was drawn up by our bond counsel and to make sure we're in compliance with the law. As you recall, this money is crucial to the development of the business park and the city meeting its obligations in a timely manner to extend the roadway, but also to provide greatly enhanced transportation opportunities for residents in that area. The new apartment complex we have built out there, and this project will take the Roy Rivers Drive all the way to the railroad tracks, which will position us to create a new rail crossing there in the near future, which will greatly enhance transportation opportunities out there in that area. Just as long as the county does something to Lydic Road. But this is an important part of the COs we just issued, and this agreement just documents for the record the commitment on EDC's part to pay their share.
We all know how important that road is to extend the road. We extend the road, we have more opportunities to bring in manufacturing, to bring in other retail or commercial ventures. So the road needs to be extended. I think we're all aware of that. The EDC, of course, is well aware of that, and they understand how important it is for their particular group to make sure that road is done, and they're going to basically come back and fund this after we fund it. Is that correct, Mr. Manis?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Do we have any further discussion or questions on this? I'll entertain a motion to pass item number 2. Or I'll entertain a motion concerning item number 2 under new business.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay?
I'll second it.
So a motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher, seconded by Councilmember Maldonado to approve item number 2 as read and presented. We'll start the vote with Mayor Pro Tem Brasher.
Frazier, yes?
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Ariari, yes.
Maldonado, yes. Callahan, yes.
Ibis, no.
Okay, motion passes, 1 nay. Thank you. Item number 3, an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Elgin, Texas, adopted in Chapter 46, Section 46-3, Revised Code of Ordinances, City of Elgin, Texas, 2013, and making this amendment a part of said official zoning map, to wit, to rezone as PDD planned development district, the property being 68.992 acres of land out of the Henry Martin Survey, Abstract 518 in Travis County, Texas. Said tract being more particularly described in Exhibit A and providing for a savings clause and repealing conflicting ordinances and resolution.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a zoning change to planned development district zoning to support the Stone Creek Ranch project that the staff and the developer have been reviewing for some time. This is, you may recall, the city annexed this property, I guess, a year ago, maybe 2, and I've been working with the developer since then. This map kind of shows where it is. It's immediately adjacent to the southern border of both the Elgin High School campus and FM 1100, just kind of west of the big curve there. This is one of the general layouts of the planned development, and it has I think, is this the road over here, David? Or is it back?
The actual proposed second entrance to the development.
It's right here. So this road will, the developer, as part of our development agreement, the developers agreed at their cost to put a road in parallel here that'll provide a different access point directly onto FM 1100 for the school district. This will be a road that will be owned by the school district and maintained by the school district, although we're still talking about that part. But exactly how it'll be used, public traffic or excluded to the school, I think we're still talking about that a little bit. But it is a really key new access point for the school district, for not only the school district, but it also will help feed some traffic off of this development and relieve pressure off County Line Road, as we discussed previously. Basically, as you know, planned development district zoning includes a development agreement where the city and the developer get together and agree on both sides to give the developer a little more latitude on creating the vision that they want to have for their project. And in the meantime, the city ends up receiving a greater amount of benefits than we normally would had they developed this under conventional zoning. And frankly, in this case, I don't think the city's given up a whole lot, but we're getting some definite benefits in return. The development agreement that's in your packet goes into great detail about what these are. I think a couple of highlights we just wanted to mention is that this, as you could see from the plat, the developer has a kind of a unique plan that'll include a mix of residential uses and different building setbacks and guest parking standards. But they've also committed to helping us create one of our first kind of deadhead trail spots where people can park. And our ultimate goal that's in the Parks Master Plan, as you know, to create a walking trail opportunity between all our developments out there, and they've agreed to provide space for that and public parking spaces. They're actually going to develop this project with an internal roadway system that'll be similar to large apartment complexes that will ultimately be owned and maintained by the developer, the HOA, or whoever. But the main point is it won't be owned by the city, so we won't have to pay anything to maintain those roads in the development. So again, a great benefit for us, and then the road we talked about at the back. So we think it's a good project. We recommend approval of the agreement. We have worked in concert, the developer, city staff, and the school district are on the same page about this project, the road, and how it'll be built there. So the developers are represented here tonight, if anybody had any questions. But David, did I leave anything out or is anything wrong? So, and Bo's here too. Bo's worked on this project as well, but took us a while to get it to this point, but we feel good about the project.
I'm kind of interested in a triplex. I've seen duplexes, I've seen fourplexes. A triplex is just the one in the middle and one on each end?
Hi, I'm Dakota Corville, Director of Development for ITEX. I was wearing a suit today, but I went to Southside, and now I'm in tomorrow's clothes. This is our triplex design right here. What we're trying to do is get a look and feel of a single-story family for sale, but these will all be rented. So, like you just said, there'll be 2 units and then 1 attached to it, and they'll all have garages. And our average square footage is about 1,300 square feet. So
1,300, is that what you said?
1,300 square feet. So, any other questions from City Council?
I forgot about the total LUE count. Do you know what?
So the total unit count is around 404. We'll develop this in a 3-phase approach. First phase starting Q1 of 2022. I was told to finish before the end of the year so we can meet the 150th birthday, but we'll try our hardest, and then the other sites will be developed accordingly.
And Tom, or you, can you explain what it says in here about the First Baptist Church? Y'all are going to share?
So as you can see here, and no one mentioned First
Maybe I
Baptist
was
Church,
here.
but they've been really good partners. But if you go back to
The
next
church
slide.
is right here, is that right? Or do you
Yeah,
want to go
First
back?
Baptist Church maintains this land. We're entered into a mutual use usage agreement where basically they've donated a part of their road. We will use our curb cut right here off of FM 1100, and a road will be developed mutually between the developer and the school.
Okay.
Dakota,
Anybody else?
do you mind just mentioning the price range, just so it's on the record?
I don't have it in front of me, so I'm going to speak very vaguely because I don't have the numbers in front of me. It'll be any range between $1.40 a foot to $1.50 a foot.
But these are not going to be planned for sale, for rent?
No, not at all. This concept is called build for rent. It basically, for young millennials like myself who can afford a house in urban Austin, we can come out here, live in this wonderful city, and have spacious houses that have a big backyard, garage that you would see in a normal single-family development.
And you also stated that there would be a first responder / veteran discount kind of thing.
So we will have preferential benefits due to the certain acts that we have in the rental market. I believe we are planning on going with the school district and offering a teacher discount, given that the school is in such relation to Elgin High School and the middle school, and obviously the veteran discount is always going to be part of a package that we would do.
Thank you.
And just so I understand, so when these millennials go to Austin, they're going to go down FM 1100 probably to hits 290 further down the road, or do you see them coming down County Line and hitting 290?
So we actually had a traffic impact study done that was not needed, but we decided to do it anyway to make sure there was no impact. And Jay could probably speak to it better than I could, but I believe the usage of County Line Road was less than 5%. That they, I mean, there was a very small percentage of that.
Okay. Council, do we have any other questions or comments while he's up there?
I think it's very
So
much
the
needed.
percentage of usage was, for County Line, it was a traffic study for the, even during school hours and stuff? Or
So-
what was that? What did it entail?
Sorry, what was, I'm Jay Marsh with Samatech, by the way. What was the question?
Traffic, you did a traffic study, right?
Yeah, we commissioned just a traffic memo more than an involved study, but what was the?
Because I was trying to see what it entailed, if it was during school hours and.
Yes, yeah, we did the morning rush, the evening rush. It was a standard analysis, but it wasn't a 45-page report. It was more of a several-page memo, talking about traffic distribution, which way, traffic generator, things of that nature. We used that in the discussions with city staff.
5% seems low to me.
I think it's
I-
more than the 5% ends up on county line. I think if you continue, you may be thinking of where FM 1100 continues east. It was about 5% going east. But there was, and my mind's a little sketchy.
Just to fill council in, remember the last PDD that you guys approved for Creeks Crossing, the major arterial road that's also being put in there, that's running parallel to County Line Road, and that will go all the way up and hit FM 1100, so you'll see traffic over time will be utilizing that more so than the County Line Road.
I'm gonna run them all down by your house, Susan.
Yeah, great.
Okay, council, do we have any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Mayor, if I could, one thing I want to mention for the record, Stone Creek is also making a substantial contribution to the County Line Road project as well. So they're partnering with us on that, even though, as I said, a lot of their traffic will be on 1100. They have agreed to provide funding that'll help that project too.
I think it's a great concept, and we need it.
Yes.
Obviously, we're going to have more school teachers with more schools. And young people that just can't quite afford houses because they're getting more expensive too.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for new business item number 3.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Ibis, seconded by Councilmember Maldonado. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Ibis.
Ibis, yes.
Frazier, yes?
Ramirez, yes.
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Arriaga, yes.
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Did you say thank you? I was gonna say, it's too late, we just. Okay. Moving on to item number 4 under new business, an ordinance amending Chapter 8 Business Revised Code of Ordinances, City of Elgin, Texas, deleting in their entirety Section 8.156 and adding Sections 8.157, .107 through 8-157.110, repealing all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing for a savings clause.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is a cleanup, code cleanup being proposed by the staff relating to solicitors, peddlers, street vendors, permits. I think at one time or other, I know the mayor and some of the council members that have been on here a while have all dealt with some citizens having concerns about our process being confusing, and the staff has looked into this and reviewed it, and there were some issues of just general updating of the ordinance and not only compliance with the laws, but we agreed part of the process was confusing. There's a role for the city secretary, development services, and the police department to play in issuing these permits, but we think we've come up with a system that'll work better for everybody. If you've looked at the ordinance, you know that there's a whole lot of wording changes, detailed changes, so we're not really ready to go through that every detail tonight, but we're glad to try to answer any questions. I think one of the bigger issues too is that this section of the code it goes back to a time where door-to-door sales were more common, and food trucks were just about unheard of. And now we've seen that almost flip around where you don't have as much door-to-door sales, but food trucks, we run through this process to get a permit under street vendors. So we've tried to update our code and be more consistent and make that easier for them, and plus try to mirror what other neighboring cities are doing, because again, food trucks are very common everywhere now. So anyway, I don't have any really specific part of the ordinance to point out that's a big change, but this is generated from the staff, the people experienced with issuing the not the building permits, the solicitor's permits, and addresses some of the, we hope, most of the concerns we've heard from residents in the past, or permittees, I guess I should say, in the past.
David, can you come up to the, so I know one thing I'm concerned with here is in dealing with the several of the food trucks that have come into town in the last, let's say, year. It seemed that they felt there were some really stringent requirements that they hadn't faced in other cities. David, have we taken away, I know that you said you're not quite ready to do the individual things, but have we looked at all, have we talked with the food truck vendors as well as what neighboring cities have we talked with to see?
I've done research in regards to Manor, Round Rock, those sort
Okay.
of places. So
Okay.
my orientation is facing the city of Austin, which we're growing to become more of a bigger city like those places are.
Okay,
And as far as discussion with the itinerant vendors, no, I have not.
okay. And like, for instance, one of the things that was raised back with me a few months ago was we were requiring skirting all the way around the trailer. Is that something that's still in there? Do you have any idea, or?
I think that's in regards to mobile homes and modular homes and that sort of thing. I don't think there's anything related to skirting in regards to this, because most of these are trailers and that sort of thing.
Exactly,
They're
yeah.
movable.
Exactly. Well, that's just what the vendors were telling me, that they were being told by the city that no, you had to have skirting around your trailer and that kind of stuff. And I just wanted to make sure, are we ready to pass this, I guess? Or do we need to table this?
Mayor, I'd like to table this item. That way I can look over it further and get more information on it.
Anybody else?
It's not a time-sensitive issue for the staff.
No, it's not.
We're trying to just move the ball forward, so, yeah, we want, if you need more time to look at it,
I think I would like to, thank you.
Okay.
I think I would. And you know what would be good, David? Is let's set up a scenario where I'm a food truck vendor and I come to you and the city tells me what I need to set up, so that we're all aware, basically what they're looking at being, to set up.
Yes,
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
no problem.
Council, do we agree to table the item?
Probably should have a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we table this item.
I second.
Okay, so the motion been made by Councilmember Maldonado, seconded by Councilmember Ibis to table new business item number 4. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Maldonado.
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Ibis, yes.
Frazier, yes?
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Arriaga, yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
And obviously forward any questions to us, if you have any, we'll
And David, I appreciate you working with us on this as well. Okay, item number 5 under new business, a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the city manager to utilize the construction manager at risk delivery method for the design and construction of the new City of Elgin Police Department station and making certain findings related thereto.
Thank you, Mayor. This is, as stated, this resolution is just to provide formal authorization for the staff to proceed with requests for proposals and qualifications to utilize the construction manager at risk delivery process for construction of the new police station. This is a method that the staff and the city engineer are very familiar with. We were able to brief most of the council in the last week on this, and it's a different methodology than's been used by the city in the past, but this action tonight, all it does is it's a legal requirement by the state. We have to get, typically, my philosophy is we should be able to ask for bids on anything as long as we don't commit to it, but in this particular case, we need this resolution passed so we can just start that process. But passing this resolution makes no commitments of funds, no commitment to the project, anything like that. It just authorizes us to consider proposals.
And obviously, the staff gave the opportunity to council to get further, more in-depth briefing on this earlier,
That's right.
and which many of us attended, okay? Do we hear any questions or comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
So Councilmember Ibis says the motion to pass item number 5 is presented?
Correct.
Okay. A motion has been made to pass new business item number 5 is presented. Councilmember Ibis made the motion. Mayor Pro Tem Brasher seconded the motion. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Ibis.
Ibis, yes.
Frazier, yes?
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes?
Gibson, yes.
Arriaga, yes.
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. Item number 6, a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, providing a recommendation of a polling location within the City of Elgin in support of the Bastrop County countywide polling place program and providing for related matters.
It's another item we were able to discuss briefly with some of the council members, but this, the county commissioners in Bastrop County have initiated a program to consider the possibility of county-wide polling, which basically means that just like Travis County or other of the more populated counties in the state, county voters can vote anywhere. They don't have to go to a certain location to vote. If we go through this process and are able to find appropriate locations. So they reached out to the city and asked us to consider, to recommend some possible locations. As far as city-owned buildings, I think there's only 3 that could possibly work, and that's the library here where it's been held historically, the Fleming Center and the Recreation Center. The elections administrator came out last week, I guess, and toured each one of those facilities with the staff. And in yellow and both in your packets here, these are the comments that she provided after that tour. And so they're asking, obviously this isn't a decision the staff would want to make. It came on us kind of quick, but they're, I think it's this week, tonight's the night they want to hear from us about what the council's position is on this. As we talked, we discussed, I would just say from the staff perspective, the Recreation Center, I think is pretty obviously would be the best choice as far as a building to be used. And it, evidenced by our COVID vaccination efforts there last year worked really well, and it's a great facility, but we're concerned about the lengthy occupation of that building that this would require. We only have the one meeting room or activity room that's heavily utilized nearly every day for, as most of you know, it's our best meeting place for us to have regional meetings during the business day, and then in the evening and late afternoon, it's used on a regular basis for different recreation programs and uses. So having that designated the polling place means at least twice every year, and with special elections could be 3 times a year, that facility is essentially closed off for use by the public for probably 3 weeks at a time. The other challenge with this, of course, would be if we were only talking about election day, that'd be totally different. But with the system we have now with early voting, they occupy the facility for 3 weeks at a time, and we've seen that already in here where we've had to reschedule council meetings because you can't have any other use there. So obviously I don't know that this is necessarily an easy decision. As the mayor and I discussed for Elgin, I think it's this doesn't take too long of a discussion to realize this turns into a bigger issue for us with the growth we have on the Travis County side, and trying to create consistency between voting locations there, I think will be a challenge for us. So it's kind of a tough call to make on a permanent basis here tonight, but just wanted to get in our plug about the rec center. But as you see from these comments, I think from the elections administrator part, each one of these buildings could work. So I think the conversation starts with does the council want to designate one of these?
Okay, council, do we have any questions or comments on this?
Mayor, I just want to
Yes.
state, I think this is a great idea. Again, like Tom mentioned, with all the growth heading this way, this would be our largest facility for our voters in Elgin. There's a lot more parking. Obviously, we have
What is the great idea?
to approve adding the rec center.
Okay.
I'm the other way around. I'm saying we shouldn't use the rec center.
Staff doesn't suggest the rec center, but I want to hear from you
No,
guys.
no,
Yes.
I'm saying I approve to add the rec center. There's a lot more parking over there, again, with the growth heading this way. 3 weeks out of a year, yeah, that's potentially a lot, but, I mean, the voters need to vote. I mean, there's not a lot of parking out here at the Fleming Center, so.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
I understand what you're saying. However, when, in my discussion, I did bring up the fact that the rec center's main responsibility is if we have an event. And so in the event we have an event, then that's where it goes to. So then what happens if you are also trying to vote there too, when you have people who need to come in there? Because we've then turned it into a place for citizens to go to because we've had a fire, we've had a storm or something. So then you have that conflict. And I wasn't willing to swap one for the other there, knowing that the rec center is built for events like that. That was my main thing with that one.
Understood.
Okay.
So a question to that. So how much of the rec center would be used up for voting?
Just the activity room there in the back, I think they could make that work.
And so would that still allow space for, if there was an event to happen, that we could still utilize the rest of that space?
No, if declaration gets declared and we have to turn that into a shelter, then we use the whole building for that.
Yes, Matthew.
The Fleming Center seems like an ideal spot. There is parking in the back, not necessarily just on the street. You can go around the back where the pool is. There's some parking space back there, but it's not used for many other things. It seems like a real easy slam dunk, honestly.
That's the way I went with it too, because we rent out the building, that activity room at the rec center. That was my other part of it. Even if there wasn't an event, you know, a disaster declaration, then you still have that, which I'm okay with because, like you said, voters need to vote. If we did enough signage, and I kind of like the Fleming Center of our options, because the more meetings we have here, then it's going to totally disrupt us and having to change dates and times for meetings for us here.
Right.
So I would like to say, I certainly understand the staff considerations on this, and they're understandable, they're there. But of the three choices that were listed here, to me, this is not an option where we're at now. The Bastrop County Elections Office according to them, gets numerous complaints about the lack of parking and the hard time for ADA facilities, people to come in. The Fleming Center, this is just my opinion, the Fleming Center is just not an option to me. It's hard to get into. The parking spaces in front, in my opinion, would be very, it depends on whether there's a funeral there or not. If there's a funeral there, they're taking up all the front spaces. Yes, there's parking in the back, but In my opinion, the Fleming Center is just a hard building, just as hard, if not harder, than the library. The rec center, in my opinion, is the perfect place to have this. And the reason I say that is there are tons of people in Elgin that have never had an opportunity to go into our rec center. If the opportunity is the voting, they may say, look at this gym, look at this basketball court, look at this whatever, I should join one of these programs here in the rec center. Plus, we have the parking in the back of the rec center, and we're taking up the one room in the back, the one big room. It is a meeting room in the back. And yes, there's yoga and dancing classes in there. But if we decide to use the rec center, those dates are very much in, I mean, we know that it's going to be in, whether it happens to be in May and it happens to be in November, whatever, whenever it happens to be, it's going to be in advance. It's not going to be a secret. It's not going to be a surprise. Those classes can make adjustments as needed. This is, Elgin is growing. We can't use the same little facilities that we've been using. We need bigger facilities, and in my opinion, this is a perfect opportunity for the council to look at using the rec center. If there is an event, then decisions will have to be made. There's no doubt. That's a very good point that the Mayor Pro Tem brought up. It's a very good point. But that doesn't mean, in my opinion, that we can't use the rec center for this purpose. That's just my opinion. Now, I'll listen to anybody else.
You want to go?
I initially was thinking the Fleming Center, but that was a very good point. And I didn't think about the bringing people, or that people go into the rec center and view the facilities that have not been there. So, and there is plenty of parking space. But
Councilmember?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think you've got really good points, and, I'm just thinking, even the parking at the Fleming Center isn't that close. Like you said, if there's a funeral, those front parking spaces, but the back ones, and there's a little hill, if somebody has mobility impairments, it's not as easy to get in and out of as it is the rec center.
Anybody else?
I just have a quick comment. I think you could easily direct traffic to the backside of the rec center, especially if you're just using the studio, the recreation room. I also wonder if the time that voting does happen with some notice, staff may consider relocating the classes to the Fleming studio that's there. I can't remember how large it is, but that may be an option as far as redirecting people that attend the classes to some area of the Fleming Center so that you can accommodate both. I also think about just in this past year with testing, COVID testing, and everything else where the entire rec center was shut down for multiple days. And of course, that wasn't weeks, but I think there might be opportunities to think about how creative. I realize that may not be easy, but I don't know if, aside from the rec center and the size and location, if any other options are as adequate.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Do we feel comfortable enough to make a motion one way or the other?
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
What's the motion?
I'll make a motion to choose the rec center as the Bastrop County voting.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made by Councilmember Ibis, seconded by Councilmember Maldonado to choose the rec center as the voting polling location for Elgin for next year. Is that correct? Council members?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Ibis.
Ibis, yes.
Frazier, no.
Ramirez, yes.
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Arriaga, yes.
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Okay, motion passes 1 nay. Thank you, council. New business, item number 7, a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, adopting Texas term sheet for opioid settlement.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is just a kind of a routine follow-up for us that you assume we're generally aware of the opioid problem in our country is well reported and known nationwide, and the state of Texas had sued the makers of opioids and have reached a settlement agreement with them. And then this settlement term sheet is basically a process whereby the Attorney General's office is proposing essentially how the various law enforcement agencies across the state will split up the money from the settlement. From Elgin's standpoint, to be frank about it, we certainly have felt some impact from opioid use and abuse, but truthfully not in a way where some parts of the country have really been devastated by it. And that's frankly part of the calculation of the settlement to demonstrate the direct impact. But the long and short of it is our settlement amount is $26,000 that we'll be receiving from this term sheet. The city attorney has kind of led the negotiating charge on this, and if you've seen your packets, this amount compares favorably with many or most smaller towns across Texas. So our other choice, I guess, theoretically, is we could choose to not participate in this settlement and try to sue the opioid makers ourselves, but that I don't see that as really an effective use of our time or effort. But council needs to pass this resolution so we can get our share of the settlement.
Tom, does it, will they, I'm sure they'll restrict the use of this money and how it's used?
It has to go to the police department, but I don't
Okay.
think beyond that there's any particular
Okay.
restriction of it. Do you know, Chief?
All right, that's good. I didn't even know it had to do that, so. Okay, so Elgin, if you saw in the list there, Elgin is basically $25,000. And as Tom mentioned, that's pretty much in line with other cities. Smithville is 17,000, Bastrop is 46,000. So, do I hear a motion to pass item number 7 as presented?
So moved.
I'll second.
So a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher, seconded by Councilmember Ibis to pass item number 7 under new business as presented and discussed. We'll start the voting with Mayor Pro Tem Brasher.
Frazier, yes?
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes?
Gibson, yes?
Arriaga, yes.
Malnado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Ibis, yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Item number 8, a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the city manager to award a bid for the water storage tanks repaint project to Hogan's Incorporated of Van Buren, Missouri, and making certain findings related thereto.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is, actually, we probably could have put this on consent, but I just wanted to emphasize the point that we talked about earlier. The scenario we're in here is that this project was part of the 2021 COs to resurface both inside and out all of our water storage tanks in town. And, well, actually, we set the budget up as thinking we were going to do 3 of those tanks at that time. And so we set the budget amount at $500,000, as you can see on this sheet. Now that the bids have come in, we got 13 bids, so obviously we got a very competitive price. But when you add the cost of the project, this contract itself is actually under $500,000, but add in the engineering and other costs. On this project itself, we're probably going to spend about $575,000. So it's just an example of what I was talking about before as we move forward with these projects. Now, the staff recommendation is to award the bid as presented, and we'll do all the tanks with all the add-ons, and we'll have all our water storage tanks with Pistol Hill getting worked on over the next 2 years. The city's our entire water storage system will be in good shape for minimum 15 years. That's what we look for these to be. Or but we'll go over this budget, quote-unquote, budget number we had in the COs. Our recommendation is we go ahead and do that, and just understand we'll have to find the $75,000 later. The other choice is, if we wanted to make sure to hit this budget number, then we would have to pull out one of the storage tanks and have to do that at some point later. So if you follow what I mean, it's just a good example of probably what we're gonna hit throughout the COs. We're gonna have some projects a little over budget, some projects a little under, but in this case, we're actually recommending we spend a little over this $500,000 even. We're actually getting 4 tanks done with this instead of the original number of 3. And like I said, I think the best part of it is we're literally taking care of all our water storage tanks that are in town today for the next 15 years once we get Pistol Hill done too. So it puts us in a great position, but if you consider this a budget number, then I just want to make sure you know we're recommending we go a little over that, and we'll just have to make it up someplace else.
Council?
Anything to add to that, Bo? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's right. The original budget was for 3 tanks, and the 575 is actually to do 4.
Right. And that's all in, that's engineering and everything.
Council? Obviously, it's a good thing to get them done, right? I mean, some of these things have gone probably 20 years without being refurbished, so.
We're close to a couple of them, and not doing this in a timely way is exactly why we had that water tower at the high school leaking last year, so. We originally thought somebody shot a hole in it.
That's the story I told everybody, that a high school student was shooting a rifle up into it, but maybe not, okay. Council, if we have no further discussion or comments on that, I'll entertain a motion to pass item number 8 as presented and discussed.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Ibis, seconded by Councilmember Arriaga to approve new business item number 8 as presented and discussed. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Ibis.
Ibis, yes.
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Arriaga, yes.
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, Council, unanimously. Let's move on to item number 9 under new business. The resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with TRC Engineers Incorporated for professional engineering services related to an emergency preparedness plan in accordance with Texas Senate Bill 3 and making certain findings related thereto.
This item is pretty much as explained. It's just more of an issue where the legislature, again, is passing on an unfunded mandate to the cities. We have to absorb the cost. So Senate Bill 3 requires us to prepare this emergency preparedness plan, which is basically a very detailed engineering analysis. And we've been notified to TCQ that we have to do that. The primary object, I guess, of Senate Bill 3 is, a reactionary move based on the winter storm we had last year. And one of the primary issues is this study has to prove that we have a system that can maintain 20 pounds per square inch of water pressure during an extended power outage. And so while we're confident our system has always been able to do that, except when we don't have power for over 3 days. But this is just a report that's required to be done by TCQ, and this is where the engineers lobby at the State House always pays off for them to get these kind of. Bo, you got anything else in particular to add?
No.
I forget.
It literally is directly because of the winter freeze and everybody being mandated to put these together.
Yeah.
Really being rushed. You guys have actually already submitted a form that was due 2 weeks ago, technically, to the state,
So is this the report, Bo, that we have in our hands, or is there?
No, that's the proposal.
This-
proposal. That's all the stuff that goes into the report.
So when will we see the report?
Probably it will be provided to city staff early February for final review, and any comments from there will be incorporated, but then it has to be in by March 1.
That's if we approve it.
That's if you approve it.
Yes.
And what's the number, Mayor? I forgot to, 24,000? What's it say on the last page? Come down.
24,553.
Yeah, 24,533.
And so basically, every city is having this,
Every city is doing this right now.
I guess every water supplier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, every public water supplier.
If you're a water supply
Okay.
corporation, some of the smaller ones, they're not doing the water supply corporation.
okay. All right, do we have any questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion to pass item number 9 under new business as discussed and presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilmember Ibis, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher to pass new business item number 9 as presented and discussed. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Ibis.
Ibis, yes.
Fraser, yes?
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Arriaga, yes.
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. Item number 10 under new business, a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, casting its votes for the Bastrop Central Appraisal District Board of Directors, making findings of fact and providing for related matters.
This item we've discussed at the last couple meetings. We've now received from the CAD the candidate list, and as shown it's in your packet and is shown on the screen, the city of Elgin actually has 124 votes to cast for Bastrop County Board of Directors. David Glass, who's we all know has been on the board, is submitted his name for reconsideration, and the school district is supporting David for this position. And in my experience, the city typically tries to join with the school board on this vote to try to combine our votes to have a greater influence. So, but other than that, I don't really have any other information.
And do we have Travis County too?
We do. That's
the next one. Council, does anyone here know any of the other candidates? Okay. Do we have a recommendation?
I recommend we go forward with David Glass.
Okay, you want to make that motion?
Yes, sir. I'll go ahead and make a motion. We assign David Glass to the Bastrop County Appraisal District Board of Directors.
I'll second.
Motion made by Councilmember Maldonado, seconded by Councilmember Ibis to nominate David Glass as our vote for the Bastrop County Central Appraisal District.
Well, to cast the city's 124 votes for David.
Okay.
Right.
Do I need to rephrase that?
No.
Okay.
As long as we
Let's
understand
make
it.
sure we make, that we're casting the vote, the 124 votes? Is that what we said?
Right.
Okay. So, Councilmember, we'll start the vote with Councilmember Maldonado.
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Ibis, yes.
Fraser, yes?
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes?
Gibson, yes.
Arriaga, yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. We're moving on to item number 11, the resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, casting its votes for the Travis Central Appraisal District Board of Directors, making findings of fact and providing for related matters.
Thank you, Mayor. This actually, again, as we've talked about, as we continue, I think this will probably be a continuing pattern. The more we continue to grow and kind of grow equally in Travis County and Bastrop County, that we're still going to have what appears to be inconsistencies in the various systems, but just the same, we need to participate. I'm a little confused about this, and we've inquired a couple times, but have been assured that the Travis County Appraisal District Board of Directors, they've told us that in their system, every entity has one vote. And now, if I'm Austin, or I'm not sure I'd like it if Elgin had the same number of votes as them, but that's what we've heard from them, so we're here tonight to decide how we're going to cast that one vote. And we did get some feedback from Debbie Cartwright. You all may know Debbie's a citizen, is on our sesquicentennial committee. I didn't know, so recently she's actually on the Travis Central Appraisal District Board. And she talked with her. Her personal opinion was, a recommendation was that the council consider Elizabeth Montoya. She felt like her comment was that it will help improve diversity on that board, and that's why she'd recommend that, her. But beyond that, I don't know either candidate or anything about it.
So council, we have two candidates there, Kellen Bradford and Elizabeth Montoya.
I have a question. Do we know what the school board went with?
I don't on this one, did you? Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you hear that out of order comment from the audience? Yeah.
And have they both previously served?
I don't think either one of them have served, do you know, Jen?
So it was just a recommendation.
Right. I don't, the individual previously was on there, chose not to run for reelection that we had voted for before.
Council?
I think seeing, we go with the school board, I feel like we should go with the school board again.
One vote. Gotta say one vote.
You got, did you say one vote?
Yes.
Okay. So are you making a motion?
Yes, I make a motion for Elizabeth Montoya for the Travis County Appraisal District.
For one vote?
One vote.
I'll
there-
second it.
Okay. So the motion has been made by Councilmember Ibis and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher to cast our one vote for Elizabeth Montoya for the Travis Central Appraisal District Board member. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Ibis.
Ibis, yes.
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Arriaga, yes.
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. All right. This is the last one. Hey. Item number 12, Shenandoah Greenbelt Ground Maintenance. And I guess, Mr. Mattis, did you want to start it, then Mr. Callahan can start?
Mr. Callahan asked for this item to be on the agenda. We discussed it, but it might be better for Matthew to just go ahead and explain it. I need to get this map together so you can kind of follow.
Which one do you live in?
I heard it was like over here somewhere.
I'm at Calvary Trail. I'm not sure, looking at this, where Calvary Trail is.
Well,
But go ahead and tell us, Matthew, what
The green belt.
the situation.
That huge green belt. Well, we've been in the house since 2007, and it's always been some kind gentleman with a big, huge tractor and a shredder, like twice or three times a year, used to always go through and cut it. And for probably the last 14 months, it hasn't been cut anymore. And so we called to ask, because you just get used to the sound of that tractor. It's really loud. But anyway, no more tractor. And the effect of that basically has been that coyotes and snakes are a lot more inclined to come to the yards than they were before. We're in the cul-de-sac right up against the greenbelt, so we see it all the time. And as the plant life has grown and become larger, it's also become a really great place for kids to cut school and hide and just hang out and smoke dope or do whatever, the kids may do. And so it's just become kind of a challenge on a number of levels. Animal life, pets disappearing, so on and so forth, coyotes coming up into the cul-de-sacs. And so my request was, is there any way, and actually, when the lady came, that very kind lady gave the talk about the 5 existing parks in Elgin, the Greenbelt was one of the 5 that she mentioned. And that's what kind of, oh my God, it's a terrible park right now. So getting it cut or having the gentleman come back and shred it, if there was some way to get that back into.
So when you say the gentleman, was the gentleman working for the city of Elgin that was
He
doing
must
this?
have been.
I think so.
He must have been. But anyway, so all of us that live along there, it's just been challenging since.
Tom, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I could just say that, to back it up a little history, we have received other calls from other people out there expressing the same concern, but for those of you who've been on council a bit, you remember we went through, the council participated in a really detailed exercise a year or two ago where we started out with having some concerns expressed about inconsistencies with how city crews were mowing some areas and not mowing others, and mowing areas that appeared to be private property, which obviously isn't something that we need to use city resources to do. So we asked the staff to identify those areas, and I think we started out with a list of over 30 different locations that were not your traditional road right-of-way or city-owned property, that over time, I think, for lack of a better word, political pressure or whatever, for a long time, the crews just got in the habit of mowing certain areas. I think it depended on times who was on the city council or whatever. But we went through those in a painstaking way and looked at every site, and the council specifically gave direction about now some of those areas are private property that we still use city forces to mow. The railroad track, 290, we've talked about that. We made a conscious decision that we wanted to maintain those areas at a higher level than the owners were willing to do. And because they're TxDOT in the railroad, we knew we wouldn't have any pressure to put on them. So we do mow some of those areas. Areas that go across private property to lead to a sewer lift station, things like that. So we went through every part of that, but there were a number of those properties where we had to notify people and say, I know the city has cut this grass for the last 25 years, but it's really your responsibility as a property owner to start mowing it. And so we've turned the corner and had a lot of those. We're not using city resources that way, and we've had a lot of these property owners accept their responsibility to do this. What I think, if I understand about this, is this area is technically HOA-owned property, or there is no
HOA in Shenandoah.
Well, that doesn't mean that there's not an HOA listed on the deed as owning the property. In my experience, back in the day, when first development started happening, and cities weren't quite as adept at the HOA idea, it wouldn't be the first development that on paper said an HOA would take care of it, but then you find out there is no HOA, or we had one in Cal where we learned that the dues were voluntary. Well, you can imagine how many people paid dues when there was, but on paper, when they started development, it looked like it would work. So there is a challenge for us, a little bit of access, getting back to this area. But I just say, like most things, I don't dispute what Mr. Callahan has said. But it is it's a consistency thing for us to try to be consistent with what we're doing. And I can tell you, since council gave that direction before, we have had a number of people now start mowing property that they never mowed before, which was rightfully so. But as I said, when we went through that process, there were, for different decisions, I know the council members that participated in that there were certain cases where they said it was in the city's best interest to continue to mow this or that. And so at the same time, it wouldn't be totally unprecedented for us to try to get back there and help out with that. But frankly, I think we need that kind of direction from council, because purely from the staff perspective, this doesn't meet the criteria for us to maintain it.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I was there, I think Jessica and Susie, when we went through that. And there were some instances where, due to safety or other overlying issues, where we said, no, we still needed to do that. And so then this decision for me, has to be, is this one of those? Because there was some private property that we did opt to continue to do that. Does it make sense? Because this is a larger audience and you've got school kids that are going out there too. You know, that's what I had to think in my head whenever Councilmember Callahan brought this forward.
Anybody else? Yes, Councilmember Rose.
Well, the city has looked at the deed on this property?
Yeah, I presume so. I guess I haven't.
Okay, because what I'm just thinking is if the deed is in an entity that no longer exists, if we can kind of trace that down, and if the city is saying that this is parkland, well, if we can get the deed, transferred over to the city, well, then there would be no question who would maintain that, and I think it would be a great park addition as well, but, I'm just thinking if it's private property, if, one homeowner owns that entire place, I know the residents need it mowed, but I think the city then needs to put pressure on that homeowner rather than spending.
Well, again, that's what we've done. It's a completely different question about
Right.
whether we're going to take that's a huge area for us to absorb and maintain. I guess I don't recall exactly, Michael, I don't know if you were in that. We didn't do deed research, but we researched on the tax rules and.
It's city-owned, but not designated as park.
Okay.
Not part of the park system.
It's not a HOA property or owned by the,
The portion that would highlight on the map is not HOA.
okay.
Well, that makes
then why are we
that makes
mowing
it
it?
pretty obvious then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that makes
Yeah.
it easy.
Why do we quit mowing it then?
Listed as one of those areas not on our mowing list.
So that's the only reason, because it wasn't listed.
Well, if it's city property, then I don't think there's, we don't have a choice here.
Yeah,
It needs to be
there's a
done.
lot of
Yeah.
children that walk through there. And
It's possible too, that because there wasn't any representatives from Ward 3 for a period of time. And I just sort of assumed that when that happened, these were empty seats.
Maybe, that might be.
Well, it clearly, like you were talking about, it stopped when we went through that process. So something happened in that process to make us think that was it, so. But yeah, I agree. If it's city property, then we gotta maintain it. so.
I was gonna say, I don't think there's a question.
All right, so never mind.
Should we still pass a motion or no?
Because it's
So,
city property.
so we're gonna do it.
There you go.
So many people have been harassed by little tiny rattlesnakes. I mean, it's been really awful.
Well, we're gonna, well, obviously that wasn't my understanding of the situation. We'll just have to research it. If we're not gonna mow it, we'll bring it back. How about that?
Well, I mean, we should mow it irregardless at least once.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
before it gets worse than what it is
Right.
probably. But, okay, that's good.
Can
So
we
we-
pass a motion just so that we make sure it does get mowed?
Well, I think, are you
Yeah,
gonna
Okay.
research?
that's not necessary.
Okay.
Or we'll, if it's city property, we have to maintain it. It's pretty simple.
All right. We will now be going into executive session tonight. So that leads us to announcements. Council, do we have any announcements?
Happy Thanksgiving.
I would like to thank everyone that was involved and came to and participated in the Dia de los Muertos Festival. For our first year, we felt it was a very successful festival, and I see nothing but good and better things for it. So thank everyone that came and was involved with it.
It was great.
Any other announcements?
Just share real quick, I did hear back from Forrest this afternoon. His wife actually had knee replacement surgery this morning, and so that's where he's been in the hospital. But he said they had her up walking this afternoon. I don't know how that, it's amazing, but he thinks she'll come home tomorrow, so it was all good, so.
Okay. Any other announcements? Council, do we have any other business to discuss? I hereby,
Next meeting, December 7th.
next meeting is December 7th. Okay, I hereby call the meeting to end, to adjourn.